Welcome to Fun at One. I'm Professor Gerding. This is the show where I use my psychology office hours as an excuse to play games with my psychology students in hopes that they'll interrupt with comments, questions, concerns, etc. Especially because it's test week this week. Yeah, we got test 3 going on. Oh my goodness. So if you have any questions, let me know because I'm your teacher and I want you to do well. What are we doing today at Fun at One besides being live on Facebook, Twitch, and on YouTube? In fact, let me get chat going on Facebook to make sure we're live here. Oh, we are. It's looking pretty good. We're playing the Innsmouth Case, which is rated teen. So if you're younger than a teenager, maybe this may be too mature for you. But this is day 2 of it. In day 1, what happened? Well, we were a private investigator, and we established that the timeline of the story has to be contemporary. At the very latest, or earliest, I should say, it's the 90s because cell phones exist, because we're using our cell phone. But this is an entire text-based game. It's basically choose your own adventure. So we're just doing a choose your own adventure game, and we... private investigator left our office to go on a case. An attractive woman wanted us to find her daughter. And her daughter was last seen in Innsmouth. So we're on our way to Innsmouth. With that being said, let's pick it up where we left off last time. And here we go. I believe we just arrived at Innsmouth is where we left off. We tried hitchhiking, etc. Anyways, you can see that video. I'm rambling at this point. I did a horrible job introducing this thing. I apologize. I'll do better. But all you really need to know is that we're looking for a missing girl at the town of Innsmouth. So here we go. Your fingers gently strengthen the banknotes inside your coat as you leave your apartment at dawn. Only over your dead body will you waste this money for actual expenses. You've never had a good... Wait, we've already done this one. We've already done this part. What's going on here? This is where we chose to hitchhike. I know it saved past this. So maybe we can go to the main menu here. I know it's covered up with chat. I changed my layout for you. Let's see here. Let's see. Chapter, park and ride. Are there any other chapters we can do? Really? It didn't save our park and ride chapter? Load chapter? Well, maybe this is just where we start then. Apparently we didn't go far enough to save the game. So that's interesting and a bit of a disappointment because it said after each chapter you'll see a little green save point and we totally saw that last time. So let's just do this again, but we'll do it differently. So we'll get to see the differences. At this time, you usually still roll around in bed, restless for another 2 hours or so. You're at a park and ride area which is located at an intersection of 2 county roads. This is where the students and low-income earners meet to share fuel costs of a long trip. You often see nomads and vagabonds trying to catch a free ride. You're confident you won't be put in last category, at least not today. Low clouds hang in the Boston sky. The air is gray, cold, and wet, and the progress of your mission depends on the charity and compassion of strangers. Your mood is, last time we did optimistic, we'll say miserable. You've hardly arrived, all ready to start to regret your decision a little. Depending on the compassion and generosity of others, what were you thinking? As a private detective, you should know better. This is definitely going to work, you confidently say out loud. People close to you give you some worried looks. A little girl whose family has just parked their fully loaded van points wordlessly at you. Her mother takes note of you and turns up her mouth. Look, Mum, a poor person. The little one finally delivers her verdict cheerfully. So we're going to threaten to beat her up because we're doing crazy different choices this time. You lift your hand threateningly. I'll show you what it feels like to look poor in the face, you hiss towards her, and regret it immediately. Before you know it, her mother comes to the rescue and covers her child's ears, her eyes staring daggers at you. What? The girl asks, confused, and gropes for her ears. You really are a disgrace to expose my little darling to such low puns. Poor in the face? What is that even supposed to mean? Ah! Says the woman. Let's keep threatening. That means I'll teach your stupid kid manners if you don't, you say, waving your fist. A stabbing pain freezes you in your pose. The little girl has given you a surprisingly firm kick against your right shin. You lift the leg to relieve it a little. Hey, Reuben. Hey. It's good to see you, Reuben. You should be able to follow. All you need to know, Reuben, is that we took a case for a missing girl in Innsmouth. So we're trying to get to Innsmouth right now, and we either hitchhike. We're trying to hitchhike a ride to Innsmouth to investigate a missing girl. That's all I need to know, Reuben. When you put your weight back on your leg, your knee gives out and you tip over like a sack of potatoes. You land on the rough asphalt and the child laughs cheerfully. Well done, honey. You always have to stand up to bad people, otherwise they think they can get away with anything. Yes, Mommy. A tiny shoe kicks the pit of your stomach. You earned some ice cream for that, the mother praises her brutal child. I want vanilla, is the last thing you hear before the 3-car doors close. The engine revs. You're lucky. The family decided to leave you before the little girl can completely destroy you. That's when you think, damn it, you could have asked them to give you a lift. You lie in the dirt for a little longer, pondering your situation while your pain slowly fades. You think about trying to hitchhike while remaining in this position, but you come to the conclusion that it might not appeal to potential fellow travelers that you're lying so close to dog droppings. So what are our thoughts? Do we think of karma or do we think of vanilla? Let's think of vanilla. How boring and unimaginative do you have to be to wish for vanilla ice cream when you're in a real ice cream parlor? This girl sucks and is unimaginative like you thought she would be. Your shin stings when you try to get up. After the 6th attempt, you manage to not collapse again. You brush the dirt off your coat. Hopefully no one has witnessed this spectacle. It's time to consider the options. 3 other hitchhikers have positioned themselves at the exit of a parking lot, and there's a student couple and a punk with a towel around his shoulders. Every now and then a car stops, and the driver winds down the windshield to have a few words with them. Let's join them, because last time we did not. These people seem to be experienced hitchhikers. Maybe you can learn from them. Hey! You call out to the couple, hesitantly waving your hand. Hey, says the one. Ha! Says the other. Do we wave at the cars, or do we ask them where they're headed? I think we ask them where they're headed, because if they're headed to Innsmouth, we can all work together. Where are you headed? You ask the others. The young couple exchange insecure looks. Springfield, the woman mumbles without looking you in the eye. The two are probably not prepared for conversations with other travelers. The punk ignores you. He has already flagged down a car and is talking to its driver. He disappears in the passenger door. All right, let's throw ourselves into a provocative pose, because last time we stuck out our thumb and we got a ride from a strange guy. One leg sticking out of the trench coat, angled suggestively, your hand on your hip. That's how you present yourself to passing cars. Fiery but not easy, an uncut diamond on the roadside. The young couple looks over at you and their eyes widen. Admiration, you're quite certain, and a pinch of envy. You challenge their glances and move your leg back and forth. She slowly raises her hand and covers her mouth. He bites his lower lip softly. A horn pulls you back into reality. An old VW bus stops next to you. The car is sprinkled with peace symbols. The driver rolls down his window and green smoke escapes the car. Hot moves! Wow! The driver laughs in a rough voice. You stare into the face of the modern hipster, or is he a surfer bro after all? Hard to say. A complicated and at the same time messy man bun paired with a tasteless hippie shirt. Hesitantly, you examine your first option since forever. I'm Lonnie. The young man grins at you warmly. You wonder if he can actually see you through the wild of curls that still covers his face. Are you going to Innsmouth? We're going to ask him because we're trying to get to Innsmouth. Let's get past this chapter since it unfortunately didn't save it once we got to the next chapter. Ha! Lonley claps his hand on the side of his bus. Sure thing! My surfboard and me! We can't wait! Lonnie leaves further out the window. The clouds of smoke rising behind him suggest his seat is on fire. What's the deal? In or out, man? Let's join Lonnie, for sure. I'm in, you answer, and Lonnie's grin becomes even wider. Woo! Let's get going. You sprint around the bus. Lonnie has opened the passenger door. A few cans of orange lemonade clatter on the asphalt and drop in front of your shoes. You pause for a moment and take a look at all the trash inside the minibus. It takes some serious commitment to mess up your car like that. This guy was a real expert at being messy. You wonder where to put your briefcase. Do we put it between the crumbled slips of paper under the passenger seat, next to the rotten tomato plant in the storage room, or on top of the unwashed clothes behind the seat? Now, I would have you all just chime in and let me know what you think we should do, and I'll do that. But realistically right now, I'm kind of going more on autopilot in hopes that we can get past this chapter since we're already redoing it. So, if you have any suggestions, you just let me know what the answers are. And if you want to make it quicker because you're worried about the delay and you want to type faster, you can just do 1, 2, 3, just the number 1, 2, or 3, or you can be more specific than that. So for instance, in this case, if you just wrote 1, that means you'd want me to answer between the crumpled slips of paper under the passenger seat. 2, next to the rotten tomato plant in the storage room, and 3, on top of the unwashed clothes behind the seat. Ruben says I'm not too attached. So let's just do it between the crumpled slips of paper under the passenger seat, number 1. You stow away the bag and try to wipe off the transparent film of slime that now sticks to your hand. Lonnie makes a train arm gesture. Choo-choo! Let's roll! He pushes down the gas pedal and the bus starts moving. Nervously, you watch Lonnie play around with the control knobs of his old car radio while you're approaching a junction. But maybe, intentionally, or maybe just by chance, the traffic light turns green just in time. KJ's here. Namaste. Great to see you, KJ. Hope you're having a great day. We're trying to get to Innsmouth. We're a private detective trying to find a missing girl. Right now we're hitchhiking. We just got into a hipster's van. The bus drives on at a steady pace, and the cars in front of you start moving just in time so Lonnie doesn't run into anybody. Cozy. Do we just enjoy the ride or do we reprimand Lonnie? We're going to just enjoy the ride because we want to move on. We don't want to interrupt this. We're just trying to get to Innsmouth. You sit back and relax. A turbine engine of a crashing airplane could fall on you at any moment, or you could choke on a piece of vegan chocolate. Life is too short to worry constantly. Lonnie has finally found a station with 90s punk rock that he likes. Time flies. Despite various distractions, some of which have to do with his therapy, Lonnie manages not to cause an accident and somehow seamlessly weaves into the other traffic. The air in the car is stuffy, makes you sleepy. For the first time in many months, you feel relaxed, and you're sure that everything is going to be fine. If you give your best on this job, there's an actual chance you'll find this girl, bag the money, and emerge as a hero of the story. So what brings you to Innsmouth, man? Holiday? Lonnie tears you out of your dreams. Do we mention our mission, or do we lie? Well, I'll leave it up to you all this one. I would lean towards mention your mission. So if I don't have any feedback in the next 10 seconds or so, we'll just go with option 1, mention your mission. Or do we go with option 2 and lie? I don't know why we would lie. I think we should mention our mission because maybe Lonnie knows something about the missing girl. The only reason we would lie is if we were suspicious of Lonnie and we wanted to somehow manipulate him into something later on. I don't know. Some people believe there is always a strength in obfuscating who you are and what your intentions are. But I believe the opposite. If you have a clear goal and true purpose, a lot of people will get on board and help you try to achieve those goals. So I haven't heard anything. We're going to mention your mission. I'm investigating a private matter. I'm supposed to find a little girl who ran away from home. At first, you're not quite sure whether you should be further distracting Lonnie from the traffic, but you have to admit that so far he's been exemplary with the traffic rules. You fish the little Polaroid photo out of your coat pocket, and you hold it up for him to see. Lonnie whistles. Wow! The little one has really huge eyes. She shouldn't be that hard to find. Is that a disease or something? You know it! You look more closely at the picture. The child does look strange, but Delilah hadn't mentioned any illness. I don't think so, you mumble evasively. You write down your phone number on one of those countless pieces of paper lying around in the car. Lonnie promises to call if he finds Tabitha, but you assume he'll forget her as soon as he catches the sea breeze. But who knows? The more eyes, the better. Satisfied, you pocket the Polaroid photo. Nice. Where are you going to take the conversation next? Where are you staying? Is option 1, or be silent and relax. We're just going to be silent and relax to fast forward this part of the chapter. You let yourself sink a little deeper into the upholstery. Slowly but steadily, the bus chugs through the countryside. Not the fastest, but definitely a cost-effective way to move around. And the best thing? Lonnie hasn't mentioned anything about sharing the gas money yet. You've hit the jackpot. With these blissful thoughts, you drift into a light sleep. At some point, the vehicle leaves the country road and turns near a wooden sign. It says Innsmouth written in big red letters, which are slowly peeling off the sign. Your journey continues along a narrow and bumpy country lane with lots of potholes. In the distance, you can already make out a few houses, seagulls circling the roofs of far-off side of the coastal town. You approach another wooden sign with the words "Cars on Diversion" scrawled on it messily. An arrow underneath points to the right. The sign points away from the route that leads directly to Innsmouth, presumably a diversion. You're sure that the other board directly underneath with the words "other routes" actually points in the direction leading directly into town. Odd. Lonnie is already indicating and wants to turn into the diversion lane. Do we not get involved, or do we ask him to follow the other route sign? So this is pretty important. It seems like Lonnie may be driving the wrong way. Do we just trust that Lonnie is driving to Innsmouth? Or do we ask him to follow the other routes sign? Trust Lonnie, option 1, and don't get involved. Or option 2, ask him to follow the other route sign. What do you think? I think I'll default to option 1 on this one if I don't hear a response. Ruben, KJ, I'm not sure if you're still there or not. I've got no one on Facebook. I can't see anyone on Twitch. So it's a quiet summer afternoon here where I live. And so I imagine that's why we don't have too many people online right now. It's the middle of the afternoon, incredibly hot summer day. Ruben says he's here, but isn't providing a response. Darnell's here as well. Ruben, I totally understand why you'd want to listen just in the background, especially with this repetitive music. You should let me know if you want me to turn off the music and I can replace it with a different one. But let's not get involved. No way, Jose. I'm here to chill. Seafront, here we come. Lonnie switches off the turn signal and continues to follow the direct route into town. How strange. Your van drives past a huge scrapyard. Parking lot? All the way out here in the middle of nowhere, so far from the actual town. You pass another wooden sign. In flaked off letters, it tells you that this is supposed to be the Innsmouth Park and Rest Area. A lot of the cars give off the impression that they've parked here for a very long time. Potentially years. Fine sand has covered the bonnets and windscreens. Fallen leaves gathered next to deflated tires. Some of the cars have started going rusty. The minivan, in which we currently find ourselves, continues along the road, passing the first small old houses. The change from the country road to uneven brick road only minimally improves the journey, except Lonnie, who seems delighted. Dude! He shouts enthusiastically. He puts on a heavy metal CD into the CD player and turns the volume all the way up to 11. He starts headbanging, of course. The CD player is struggling mightily with a brick road and interrupts the music every other beat to buffer for at least 5 seconds. Lonnie does not seem fazed by this. You're pretty sure this is what hell must be like. Alright, so here we're getting a little bit dated, whether it's an old car or maybe we are in the 90s because he's using a CD player that skips. That's some pretty old tech right there. So maybe Lonnie's ride is dated, but not sure. The endless fields and meadows have turned into much narrower alleys. Is this a one-way street, do you think? You almost wish for an oncoming car, anything really that would force the car to stop so that the CD player would have a chance to play its music for just a little bit longer. But no luck. No oncoming traffic in sight anywhere. As you look around, your first impression is one of surprisingly idle. Innsmouth is an old town, even by New England standards. Many houses seem to be from the 19th century, but are in good condition. Or at least they've received a new lick of paint not too long ago. It's just that the roads are now worryingly narrow. Your side mirrors have been scraping along the brick walls, and you think it's really impressive that Lonnie's bus isn't getting seriously damaged by any of this. So I guess we're going in narrow alleyways, and that's what's causing his side view mirrors? Whoa, how close was that? He says after scraping around a corner. Man, I've got a real bus surfing skills. Lonnie's enthusiastic voice repeatedly cuts through the white noise that had settled into your brain. Together, you and your brain decide to jump out of the driving car at the next best opportunity. With quick steps, you make your way into the town center in the direction of the coastline. Not long ago, the sun was bright in the sky, but already the first wafts of mist are creeping into the streets. The air feels heavier, and the sun can no longer penetrate the fog. Time to think about where you want to go. You slow down, leaning your briefcase against a wall. You start pacing along a quiet alleyway. All right, so we're in Innsmouth. We made it. You've got an important choice to make right now. The city center is in the north. Even from afar, you can see the outlines of the old, ornately decorated buildings in the main town square. Here, you should find the police station, the main shopping street, and of course, the town hall. As a coastal town, Innsmouth, of course, you also know that they have a harbor. During your research, you found out that this is a busy area which includes a dreamy beach. You expect there to be mostly tourists. The old town, according to research, has the only hotel in town, the Gilman Hotel. You could decide to check in and freshen up just when you want to set off. Your heart leaps into your throat. Where a moment ago your briefcase was leaning against a wall, now nothing. Disturbed, you walk up and down the street, peer into alleyways and over a fence, but there is no one in sight. Did you actually bring your briefcase and put it down here? Or are you going mad? At least you can take comfort in the idea that the thief will be surprised by what he will find when he opens the briefcase. Quite a lot of pieces of paper with phone numbers but no names on them, sweets, or scrunched up underwear. Interesting. Option 1. In our briefcase, were we keeping pieces of paper with phone numbers but no names on them? Option 2 is sweets. And option 3, well, that's scrunched up underwear. Option 3 is obviously the funniest option, scrunched up underwear. Sweets is kind of the neutral option, but still a little absurd as well. Like we're some type of candy hoarder. Or do we go with pieces of paper with phone numbers but no names on them? Option 1 is the most story-based answer. That's probably the most likely thing that would have been in there. Just notes, phone numbers. So let's go. If no one's going to say option 1, 2, or 3, let's go with option 1. You think you can cope with the loss of your briefcase. Luckily that you didn't take anything actually useful or valuable on your trip. You check the alley one last time. Apart from a pair of moving curtains on one of the windows, you don't notice any clues that could lead you to the culprit. Doesn't matter now. It's important that you keep moving. There are only a few hours left until the sun goes down. The first thing we visit is, here we go. Now we're finally into investigation mode. Do we go to the city center in the north, the hotel in the south, or the harbor in the east? In the city center, that's where we'll get a lot of people. Hotel is where we'll probably want to camp up for the night. And in the harbor, that's where there's a lot of tourists. I say we go to the police station, which is in the north. So that's where we're going to go unless someone disagrees. Again, me rambling, talking about each of the options, is me just buying y'all time to interrupt with saying which option you want me to choose. But we're going to continue this book by going to the harbor, because Ruben says harbor. Here we go. It's loading. We're now in the harbor. All right, so now it just changed locations, and it showed that symbol, so I think it should have saved. Now that it says harbor, no longer says like park and ride, so should be better off. All right, Innsmouth Harbor is signposted much better than the local hospital. You wonder if a hospital is even needed here. It's a half-hour walk. A mile-long carpet of cobblestone is now ahead of you. The traffic in Boston is more hectic, but at least they have heard of asphalt before. As you keep walking, there are fewer and fewer residential buildings along your path. In their stead, there are now warehouses that must be fish markets due to the smell. P.U. You can also hear the occasional metallic clang from nearby workshops. People in gray raincoats are walking toward you. They're probably fishermen who have some errands to run. Now and again, in that split second when you pass one another, you catch a glimpse of the faces under the hoods. Puffy eyes that look at you suspiciously. Although there are a few clouds in the sky, there's no chance of rain as far as you can tell. Why are they all wrapped up like that? You wonder if they have a sixth sense for approaching storms. The sound of rhythmic blows of a hammer nearby tears you away from these thoughts. Time out! Just as a heads up, the classic story of Innsmouth in Lovecraftian mythos is a town full of fish people that worship Dagon, or an elder god in the sea. So, Ruben asks, what do I think of the writing of this game? What's my opinion of this game so far? It's a book. It's definitely very heavy-handed in the text-based things. Right now, it's not very saturated. It's very dry and nondescript while also being overly descript. I basically think that's my way of saying thumbs down. I'm not laughing. I'm not scared. I'm not feeling any emotion. Right now, I'm just hoping something happens. That's where I'm at, Ruben. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts of this game and the story so far? It would be interesting to watch the work in a shipyard, but little Tabitha is unlikely to be here to play. From a distance, you can already see the masts of the boats, which rise up into the sky like rows of spears. Yeah, Ruben, I mean, once you compare this to games like The Wolf Among Us, it's no comparison. Although that's not fair, because The Wolf Among Us is more of a live movie that you interact with. It's not so much reading of a story. I think the the music that's repetitive doesn't really help either. Monotonous. Yep. Feeling kind of the same, says Ruben. It's nice. It's noise to listen to. Oh, nice to listen to, but not really engaged. But that might be because I missed part one. You didn't really miss too much, Ruben. I'm not going to lie to you. All right, so you walk into a small street at the quay with a harbor basin just behind it. Do we breathe in the sea breeze or do we look around? Let's look around. We're tired of this atmosphere. Let's have something happen. Let's mix it up. The view of the harbor is splendid. Boats of all shapes and sizes are coming and going. Nets are being emptied out and fish seem to be endlessly splashing into huge freezer boxes. Local trades are being sealed with handshakes, and at the end of a wide headland, a huge lighthouse watches majestically over the bay. The ideal postcard motif if it weren't for the people. You only know fishermen from the movies, and you have to admit that you have certain prejudices. These include, they have weather-beaten skin, and the captains always have well-groomed beards. They are either strong, silent types or hard-drinking lads who sing filthy sea shanties. But these creatures in front of you are neither majestic nor Larry. They move around more like tragic hunchbacks you'd expect to see in French cathedrals. That's a Quasimodo reference. A few yards to the right, there's a fork in the road, and a road sign pointing further north. Its inscription reads, Innsmouth Paradise Beach. In the far distance, you can see a building that looks like a church. Hang on, a church? On the coast? How eccentric. Do we go to the beach, to the church, or to the lighthouse? Okay, so here are our options. Our options, we go to the beach. The beach would have probably tourists there, so people we can interact with. I'm hoping we interact with someone. I want to get down to the case. I want to find this girl. To the church, it's kind of interesting because there we may find interesting things of them worshiping some elder god from the sea. Or to the lighthouse. The lighthouse, classic spooky place to go, especially at night, where sea creatures can arise from the rocky coast and attack us. But knowing the pacing of this game so far, I'm guessing that none of that will actually be fruitful. Man, I'm already jaded, Ruben. You got me jaded, Ruben, but I don't want to ruin it for anyone who's enjoying it. We're going to muscle through this, at least for today. And then at the end, we're definitely going to take a good hard look at this to see if we want to continue this story. So, option 1, the beach, the church, or the lighthouse. I'm inclined to go with option 2. If I don't hear any differently in the next 10 seconds, we're going to go to the church. Option 1's the beach, 2's the church, 3's the lighthouse. All right, I'm going to be totally honest. One of the reasons I picked this game is I told Casey, who is our blind friend, that we're going to do a total non-graphic novel game so that you didn't need vision in order to enjoy it. And she's not even here. She missed the first day. She said sorry to me. Thinks she overslept. Now she's missing this day. No shade. It's not her job to come here, whatever. But, you know, it's like when we do these things for specific people, I just got to count on them not showing up. But here we go. Let's, Polly's here. You just broke your foot, Polly? Oh my goodness, Polly, I hope you're okay. Seriously. I want you to heal well. And Polly, if you have any questions on test 3, the assignment, you let me know. I'm here for you. I'm not sure if you saw the YouTube videos that covered the information, but Ruben says, oh, you have a blind friend. That explains why you describe what's happening on the screen in all the other games. Yep, that's exactly why. Yeah, and you've probably seen her in the comments, Casey. And that's why she also asks a lot of questions of like what's going on and etc. So we try to help Casey out as best as possible. She's a hoot and holler. A lot of personality, that one. And let's continue. So the church is located on a hill overlooking the harbor. You're immediately drawn towards it. You stroll along the docks towards the cliffs. You take in the pleasant sea breeze and the hustle and bustle on the ships. Your original mission pops into your mind. This place is so relaxing. It's just too easy to forget about the little girl. Polly, if it makes you feel any better, I've got a sprained wrist right now that hasn't healed, so I'm supposed to be wearing my splint, but I took it off to air it out a little bit and also to help hold the controller a little bit, even though only one button's needed on this game. But here we go. Let's continue the story. Out of the corner of your eye, you can see 3 fishermen whose boat has just moored. They're not working. In fact, they're not doing anything. They're just standing there, staring at you. At the very least, I think I should change the music of this game. That feeling of serenity is slowly overtaken by anxiety. What are you looking at me for? Or speed up your pace. We're going to say, what are you looking at me for? Because finally, some interaction with people. What are you looking at me for? You shout across at them, giving them an aggressive look. You bet these little CEOs have never before come across a tough city type, such as yourself. One of the 3 still observes you with mild interest. The others are already looking at their nets. After a few yards, you turn around again. They're all gone. The crew must have disappeared below deck in their little boat. What a strange bunch! Suddenly, it's utterly plausible to you that the people in this town can disappear just like that. You're a little closer to the church building now, and you're relieved to find that there are a few dozen people outside its gates. And they're not just the usual creepy Innsmouth kind, no. The group are gesticulating and discussing something in a very animated manner. These are normal people. As you reach the courtyard, you're able to assess the situation a little better. 2 groups with about the same number of people are confronting one another, surrounded by a few more reserved onlookers. 2 shouty people, who appear to be the representatives of the 2 camps, are facing each other. A bronze plaque is displayed above the gates to the entrance. Engraved on it, Esoteric Order of Dagon. Boom! There you go. This church worships Dagon. You know, correct my ignorance. Is Dagon H.P. Lovecraft himself, or is Dagon fan-based? Because I think Dagon specifically isn't H.P. Lovecraft. I think that's one of the Lovecraftian fan writers. And again, that's what I like to focus on when it comes to the art versus the artist. The problematic individual of H.P. Lovecraft and his racism should not be ignored. That's why I don't like to say Lovecraftian horror. That's why I'd like to say cosmic horror instead. And I think it's important that we focus on the other artists that have turned his work into something pleasurable, something with a greater message, something like Lovecraft Country on HBO, the show that shows us that racism can be just as horrific as cosmic horror, and kind of reclaiming this cosmic horror as something greater than the work of a racist. But anyway, do we ignore the crowd and go into the church, or do we join the crowd? David's here. Hey, David. So glad you're here. Let's go into the church. Or, yeah, go to the church. So we're going to the church. Whatever their issues might be, they clearly don't concern you. Oh, now I regret kind of missing that, because that's kind of like the dungeon master's way of saying you should get involved. There's a story here, and now it's kind of letting us know like you missed out on a story. The two parties are so engrossed in their discussion, they don't even take note of you. You stroll past them unnoticed. Why not? You're already here after all. Almost immediately, two grumpy-looking men, clothed like fishermen, stand in your way, preventing you from entering the church. They seem to have a competition going as to who can give you the most sinister look. What now? I need to go in there, or leave the churchyard? Well, let's say, I need to go in there. We don't want to just backpedal. Let's go in there. I need to go in there, you mutter, a little intimidated. I don't think so, scoffs the younger of the two. Yeah, I don't think you need to go in here. This is only for the children of Dagon, the older one grunts. They look at you with glint in their eyes. Okay, so now we have to leave the churchyard. We're not allowed. So you decide to leave. Other than religious fanatics, the Church of Dagon does not seem to have much else to offer, and there are enough of those in Boston. You walk down the sloping path from which you have come until you're back at the quay wall of the harbor. Now, David, you said Dagon is based on a Sumerian water god. And I'm guessing that is totally true. Like, the Sumerians are real, and so there actually is a Sumerian water god. That's really fascinating. How'd you learn that, David, if you don't mind me asking? No pressure to answer if you're busy and just listening to this in the background. How'd you know that? Google? Was it from your enjoyment of Cosmic Core and other games like this? Handed down? I'm curious. So you decide to leave the church. All right. We go to the beach or to the lighthouse. That was it? Oh, man. We accomplished nothing except we established that that's the Church of Dagon. Let's go to the lighthouse, shall we? Lighthouse. Option 2. Initially, it looked as if the lighthouse was quite close, but as you keep walking, you realize that the trip is much longer than you expected. Ooh, we're loading to another chapter. Is it another chapter? Because it still says harbor right here. Isn't that what it just was called before? It did change the music, though. Now we hear nice ocean sounds better. David said, Wikipedia. Also, there is a good horror movie called Dagon. Yeah, Dagon. That's old school. But yeah, Dagon. So what you're saying is Dagon is not H.P. Lovecraft exclusive. Good to know, good to know. See, again, focused on the other artists inspired by cosmic horror. Because there's a lot of cosmic horror out there. A path consisting of jagged rocks leads to the lighthouse in the harbor. The lighthouse is on the end of a narrow strip of land, and as you walk towards it, the surging waves risk drenching your clothes in icy salt water. It takes all of your concentration and some balancing to not wipe out on the slippery rocks. In your mind's eye, new bills are already fluttering in the mailbox, one from the shoe repair and one from the physiotherapist. An overturned wooden sign lies on the ground between a few of the rocks. You read the label, warning, absolutely no trespassing. Yeah, David says Lovecraft literally borrowed from pre-existing mythologies. So why? Why do we give credit to the problematic author? I guess he was the best publicist, the one that made it popular through his works, right? But so often, I mean, that's basically, what is that called? Appropriation? Yeah, acculturation, basically appropriating someone's culture. I forget the term. Is that right? Is it appropriation? I think it is. Is that when you like steal someone's culture? I forget right now because I'm in front of the camera and my wit leaves me, as it so often does when in front of others, as opposed to the cozy comfort of my couch where I'm just a demigod of knowledge that just spews forth. But here, all right, anyways, we're approaching the lighthouse, and We can trespass if we want to. Innsmouth hasn't been precisely inviting since your arrival, so you already know the tune. You approach the lighthouse looking for shelter, but with every step you take, the place becomes more and more unwelcoming. The gray clouds transform into a mighty storm. Lightning strikes the top of the tower and sparks fly. Nice. Despite the storm, the lighthouse keeper hasn't put on the signal, so there is no beam of light to guide boats out there safely to the harbor of Innsmouth. Soon, you're completely drenched, but you make it at last. You're standing at the door leading to the inside of the lighthouse. Some joker has scratched something into the flaking white layer of paint on the surface of the door. "Do not come any closer! They want your body," says the inscription. I'll read that again. Do not come any closer. They want your body. This sounds suspiciously like option 1, a UFO sect. Option 2, a sex cult. Option 3, danger. Now this game is advertised as cosmic horror comedy. Now I'm getting the cosmic horror because of the setting so far. Some of the comedy is a little bit of a whiff. I know in yesterday's adventure, part 1, there was a little bit of comedy in that we were sure we were going to be killed by a serial killer who picked us up when we were hitchhiking, but it ended up that they were scared of us because of what we were saying. So that was kind of funny-ish. Here, I think they're saying UFO sex cult is, I think their attempt at humor here, not sure. But, because you will be eaten. What are our options here? Option 1, UFO sex cult, danger. Let's go with 3, danger. Unless someone else wants another option. Gonna go with it in 3, 2, don't see anyone else. Sex cult it is, says David. One hears about these sex cults all the time. You regularly watch documentaries about them on special websites that you visit in incognito mode. This special and intensive form of preparation should have taught you everything you need to know and do if you ever encounter a cult. Hey, this game is earning its teen rating right here. You tuck your underwear into place and walk purposefully forward. After all, you're on a mission. You consider the dangers that this old, dilapidated building may hold. A fragile building about to collapse. UFO nutters with aluminium hats. Sex-hungry, mindless, and naked cultists. House dust. Not to mention the missing girl that you need to find. Still, how often do you come to a place like this? Almost automatically, your hand comes to rest on the black iron door handle and pushes it down slowly and carefully. The door opens a crack, giving you a small glimpse into the neglected interior of the lighthouse. Darkness. Let's enter the darkness. Unsure of what to do next, you peek into the darkness. It's a tall, dark building. A very, very tall and thin building, admittedly. It is highly unlikely that the lighthouse will collapse today of all days. At least this is what you keep repeating in your mind like a mantra. You step inside. It's dry, but cold. The icy, stale air cools your shivering limbs even further. A spiral staircase leads up to the higher levels and to the top of the lighthouse. On the higher floors, you can see round windows in the side of the wall, through which thunder and lightning throw brief flickers of light. Sounds. Even the lowest corridor catches some of this light, so that you find yourself not completely in the dark. There are also some lamps that wind up along the banister. The black and white tiles on the floor have probably not been cleaned since the dawn of time. Storage boxes are cluttered around the place and take up about a third of the area of the ground level. To your astonishment, the walls of the lighthouse consist of a solid stone foundation. The metallic red and white painted exterior cladding. The white painted exterior cladding must have been installed sometime later as a modernization measure. You think that a sex cult in here is now a bit unlikely, but you do not want to give up hope just yet. What now? Do we flip the light switch, inspect the boxes, or walk up the stairs? Lots of options here, each of which could lead to very potentially different outcomes. If we flip the light switch, we get a better look at what's inside, less scary. Inspect the boxes, let's see what's being stored in this lighthouse. Or do we continue onward and upward? Because we all know that in most lighthouse-based horror movies, most of the mystery and action happens at the top, in front of the lamp. Option 1, 2, or 3. I think I'm going to default to... KJ says walk up the stairs. We're walking up the stairs. The banister had suffered the most age damage. The ravages of time have not only worn away the paint on the metal, but also the iron struts and pillars themselves. The scaffold seems to move precariously as you walk up, just as if the construction is about to collapse. When you're halfway up the stairs, you hear a loud metallic creaking sound. The stairway suddenly jerks down a little, and your insides feel like they continue dropping to the ground. Fine dust flutters down onto your head. You try to guess the depth of the fall. If the structure were to collapse now, you would break quite a few bones, or worse. The chances of you getting caught up in a sex cult decrease with every step you take. Do we keep walking up these stairs, or do we turn around? There's no turning back. We keep walking. Just because the core of the spiral staircase is a bit loose, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to collapse, right? And perhaps it's just the residual alcohol in your bloodstream that's causing everything to spin. You carefully continue your way to one of the higher floors. About 30 feet above the entrance hall is the first mezzanine floor. A metal plate in the core of the spiral staircase would also provide some stability if the whole thing wasn't so damn rusty. You can see a plain bed, a desk with a telephone, a chest of drawers, and a wardrobe with an embedded mirror. A Persian carpet is laid out over the ribbed metal floor, a pathetic attempt to make this room, end quote, a little more homely. At least there is a window on this level. Rain pelts against the glass. The weather outside seems to only be getting worse. You hesitate. Do we inspect the room more closely, or do we keep walking up? If we inspect the room more closely, maybe we'll find out more about the lighthouse keeper within. Will there be some type of clue as to where the girl we are seeking has disappeared? Or will we find something darker, more sinister, a clue as to what the citizens of Innsmouth do on this seashore? Or do we just keep walking up more and more to danger? Polly says go to the top. I'm not sure if she wrote that previously or if that is in reference to the last option. My apologies for not catching it. But since Polly says go to the top, we're going to keep walking up. You think you have seen enough and continue to follow the banister up the stairs. I'm so sorry, KJ, you said inspect, but Polly said go to the top, and we're not stopping until we get to the top. Meanwhile, thunder and lightning outside have become so furious, just as if the center of the storm is the lighthouse itself. Stoically, you continue your way upstairs. The banister continues to wobble and squeak suspiciously, but it withstands the strain. The radius of the spiral staircase gradually becomes smaller. You estimate that you are now halfway up the building. You walk past another platform level. This level is obviously used for nothing but storing boxes. At least 30 or 40 stacked boxes full to brim with books. Seeing all these books causes a warm and fuzzing feeling in the pit of your stomach, or does it cause us to be sick? For the sake of simplicity, we'll say it makes us feel good. How adorable. The previous lighthouse keepers must have been bibliophiles. You hope that you get to meet them, even though the place does look pretty deserted. You hesitate. Do we inspect the books, or do we keep walking? Well, here's my compromise for you, KJ. We're going to inspect this time. You take a moment to examine the boxes and their contents more closely. Quickly, you realize that these are almost exclusively non-fiction books. You discover lexicons, grammar for English and Spanish, non-fiction books on biology, chemistry, physics, and even geography. There is also a Bible, a guide to etiquette, and a worn handbook for tourists on the East Coast. Out of interest, you flip through some of the books. The newest ones seem to be from around the 1980s, but some go as far back as the 20s. Many are decorated with strange curls around the edges. In the last box, you find a few books that differ greatly from the scientific character of the rest. These are books about occultism, and obscure religions, yes! Titles like The Mysteries of the Worm, Unspeakable Cults, and Liber in Veris. Then there is also a book by popular UFO nutcase, and suddenly, everything makes sense. Maybe the lighthouse keeper was a little soft in the head. Probably the loneliness. Although, let's be honest, it's not like this lighthouse is on an island. I don't know why the lighthouse keeper would even have to live in the lighthouse, but hey, whatever. Keep walking up the stairs, past another mezzanine, and then you're on the upper level of the lighthouse. It's getting more and more unlikely that you'll find anything relating to your case here. Oh well. Up to the last level, or examine the mezzanine. What do we do? Do we go up to the last level, onward and upward as Polly suggested, going to the top? Or do we take a little bit more time to examine the mezzanine? I think the game was laying crepes, letting us know that examining the mezzanine isn't really going to give us much more information. But going up to the last level, maybe there will be something up there. Something at the top of the tower. After all, when you go into a tower, you have to admit, it's hard not to resist the temptation to ascend to the top, especially once you've already started. So without further ado, let's result to option 1, up to the last level. The last steps are always the hardest. Or was it the first ones? No matter which steps, your heart is now beating so strongly you can feel it pressing against your chest. Once you're back home, you should really consider a healthier lifestyle. At last, you've reached the top floor of the lighthouse. Dulled glass windows separate you from the thunderstorm outside. Rain pours down on the panes, and lightning occasionally illuminates the sky and reveals the billowing sea. If you were an artist, this would be the ideal place to paint tasteless paintings with ships on churning waters. In the center of the floor, there is a metal column that must be there to support the platform. You assume that's all this serves to stabilize and balance the construction. Apart from that, the floor is completely unfurnished. Sheets of paper with strange doodles are fixed to some of the window panes. Pencil portraits of people, trees, houses, dogs. Around each drawing, someone seems to have made notes, but you can't make out the language. You wonder if it was a destitute artist who lived here towards the end, or some sort of Russian sleeper agent. Another ramp leads to the top of the lighthouse, where the actual lighthouse apparatus must be installed. So, you walk up the steep steps. Here we go. You've done it. You've made it to the top of the lighthouse. Not in a million years did you think this job would take you to such an exciting place in a boring coastal town. There is still a nasty thunderstorm out there, and lightning keeps illuminating the glass cage in erratic intervals. Spellbound, you look at the roaring waves. They're beautiful. The powerful and steady movement of the waves. The foamy salt water splashing up oh so incredibly high. You're so enticed by all that majestic beauty that you almost wish you were outside now to feel the fresh sea breeze on your skin. But wait, why did you come here again? You try to tear yourself away from the endless spectacle of the sea and turn your attention to the center of the small glass dome. It is then that you make a curious observation. Here we go. Something of note, something of interest. Because I have to admit, so far today in this game, it's been dull, but the lighthouse has been crescendoing into some interest. I'm actually interested now. I'm invested with the hopes that something very fascinating is going to come here. Because so far, the most fascinating thing has been the church to Dagon. But then it kind of fizzled out. Like no one was really talking there. So here we go. Will there be a payoff at the end of today's Fun It One? The lighthouse has no light at all. There is no light construction that could rotate in the direction of the arbor or the sea, not even a flashlight on a microphone stand. Where you would expect some sort of electrical machine, there's only a black column of about 3 feet high, whose curved forms merge at the top into a kind of marble plate. It's an altar! An altar, a voice in the back of your head informs you. There's a cube on the altar. Let's look at the cube more closely. Intrigued, you look closer and walk closer. The material of the cube must be bronze. It glistens dully in front of the black marble column. The object looks as if it belongs just there. It's perfect where it is. Everything looks as if it's been made from one piece. What you first thought was some arbitrary decoration turns out to be hieroglyphics, cranes, simple tools, knowing eyes. Curiously, you walk to the column on which the cube rests. What are the Egyptian hieroglyphs doing in a lighthouse on the east coast of the United States? Your fingers are itching. My nose is what itches when I get nervous, so I'm scratching my nose because I'm getting nervous here. You take the cube into your possession. Getting out of this place is not an option. I will not leave this place without some payoff. We take the cube. Just for a brief second, you simply have to hold the bronze cube in your hands, feeling the texture of its surface on your fingertips. You inspect the hieroglyphs more closely. Measure its exact weight. Smell it. Lick it. You have to know everything, absolutely everything about it. You extend your hand and touch the cube. And now you can't let go of it again. It seems to have melted into your skin or somehow attached itself to you. Weet! Yes, it has sucked itself onto you, and it continues to suck. Your consciousness and your soul, everything is now trapped in a never-ending slipstream coming from this cube. Dun, 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 dun. I gotta make music because there is none. You feel like you're caught in a mighty vortex that pulls you down, down, deeper, and even deeper. All of a sudden, you have a strange out-of-body experience and start to see yourself from the perspective of the cube. You feel something unbelievably strange beside you. Some sort of being has emerged from the depth of the vortex, and it is passing you by to float in the opposite direction. JK says we shouldn't have licked it. Your soul is swallowed by the cube, and something strange occupies your body, loosens the last anchors and pushes you over the edge. You cling desperately to your mortal shell, and then your consciousness starts to crumble. For a brief moment, you think that from the perspective of the cube, you're looking at the eyes that no longer belong to you. Then, everything goes black. As you wake up from restless dreams, look at this, we're in a new chapter! Question marks. As you wake up from restless dreams, a bright light shines into your eyes, and it feels like a burning sensation directly penetrating you into your brain. After the initial shock, you gradually come to your senses. You're no longer in the lighthouse. Well, where are we? You find yourself in a huge round chamber made of dark, smooth stone. Curved lines adorn the walls and give off a soft, fluorescent glow. You begin to wonder how many hours you've been knocked out. Did you have a stroke? No wonder, given all the stress you constantly put yourself under. A sound, a chirping and clacking that vaguely reminds you of insects. Only it's louder and seems to be coming from directly behind you. Someone's in this room with you. You turn around quickly. You try to find the source of the clacking sound, and you regret it immediately. Hideous, bizarre monsters are lined up in front of you, like on the set of a bad horror movie. They're basically just huge cones of flesh covered with a film of slime. You instinctively think of slugs or your landlady. Oh my goodness. Look at that picture of a monster. We finally get payoff in this game, and it's 1:58. Just about time to stop. Let's, Polly says that she feels aliens. Yes, this is where it becomes cosmically horrific. Finally, the juice is becoming worth the squeeze here. We get some payoff. Do we stop here, or do we answer this last question? Damn alien monster, says KJ. Let's think of your landlady, since it's funnier. Fond memories from a hot evening one August. Mr. Voldeglort was once again upset about a missing payment, scolding you, at the same time swearing in the yellowish light of the evening sun. Sweat formed on her face and collected on her upper lip. You were completely hypnotized by this sight, which was not conducive to the ongoing rent negotiations. But right now, you have other problems. The flesh cones are a bizarre sight. Your mind is having trouble processing what it sees. At the top of the flesh cones, there are 4 tentacle-like growths, each ending in a different organ. 2 form huge, sharp claws that appear to be clicking incessantly. Another one ends in a jumble of trumpet-like tubes. And a 4th one forms what you think is the head of the creature. A round organ with 3 eyes, a set of feelers above, and a ring of tentacles just below. Half a dozen of these creatures now stare at you from their bright yellow eyes, clicking their scissors menacingly. One of the beings breaks away from the group and comes towards you with its claws raised. The only rational thing to do is what? Run away, prepare for the fight, or scream? David says his mind can't comprehend all of the tentacles. Yeah, madness infects our mind. Well, do we continue on? Do we run away, prepare for a fight, or start to scream? Option 1, run away. 2, prepare for a fight. Or 3, prepare to scream. I'm going to default to option 3 and just scream if I don't hear another option within the next 10 seconds. Polly says prepare to fight. Here we go. You have no idea what planet these monsters come from, but you have never had to deal with a private detective. But they've never had to deal with a private detective from Boston before. Yeah. The creature moves like a snail. It has no legs. Rather, its base keeps expanding and contracting. This gives you enough time to analyze its weak points. You reckon that it's about your size, and although its claws look scary, you don't think these spindly arms can exert much force. His neck, in particular, seems to be a weak spot. 1 or 2 hard hits on the head should put this pathetic barnacle out of business. You raise your fists aggressively. But instead of your hands, these scissors at the end of tentacles appear in front of your eyes. What? You stare down at yourself in disbelief and find yourself transformed into a monstrous vermin. Were you expecting to see your legs? There is only a fleshy cone for which 4 tentacles grow a pitiful claw arm, a trumpet-like extension, and your neck. You're no longer in your own body. What is happening to me, you ask yourself, but you already know it yourself. You are one of those monsters. You faint. You should be able to understand me now. You open your eyes. You're still in the same position where you lost consciousness. Only a brief moment seems to have passed. But what is this pinching feeling on your neck? Looks like a small device has been attached to your new body. Waking up in a new body is disturbing. I understand that. So first of all, let me reassure you that this state is not permanent. And when you return, you won't remember anything. You hear the voice, not through your ears or the comparable organ in this body, but directly in your head. What you're hearing is the clicking of scissors. I've attached a translation device to you. We can now discuss all the questions you'll no doubt have. Evidently, the beings communicate with each other via their scissors. So what would you like to know? You know what? We're out of time for today. Do we finish this story tomorrow, now that we're actually somewhere? Perhaps so. Perhaps the game will end tomorrow as well. And when it ends tomorrow, well, I'll put in a backup game if it only lasts a few minutes. If not, we'll continue, because finally the game gets interesting. So part 3 will be great. Now, we didn't get to a good save point, so I'm assuming when we pick up tomorrow, we're going to have to redo a little bit of what we did today. So you know what I'm going to do is I'll get on the game earlier tomorrow and bring it right to this point. So that way you can decide out of these 5 options how we start talking to this alien creature. David says it's not so bad because he's always wanted tentacles. Hey, thank you so much for joining me for Fun at 1 today. I hope you have an amazing Wednesday. Enjoy yourself. And I hope to see you tomorrow, Thursday. At what time? Fun at 1. Don't forget to ask me any questions you may have. Let me know what you think of the game. And definitely, if you're my student, know that I'm here for you. You can email me. You can comment here at Fun at 1. I'm here to help you. Make sure you do fantastic in my psychology class. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Bye, everyone. Bye.